Today on Spotlight on Laurel, her history and her people, I'm excited to be interviewing a lifelong friend of mine and my family's, Lorie Mullins Sikes.
Hey.
How you doing, Lorie?
Good, I'm good.
Good. Want to let folks know, too, that we're brought to you by the Video Guy and the Sentinel-Echo and KJ Music Radio Promotions. Lorie, I want also to let folks know that you're the first one in this series that is actually younger than me. Everybody else has been older.
That's good.
Yeah, but there's a lot of history here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history here. So let's talk first now about your parents.
Okay.
Elmer and Ruth, what great folks they were.
They were.
They really were. And I've never asked you this and don't know this and probably should know this, but how do you get the nickname Shot?
You know, the story I was always told, back when he was young, there was an old black and white TV show, and it was called Big Shot.
Okay.
It was either called that or there was a character, I don't remember, but he watched it all the time.
Okay.
And they just started calling him Big Shot.
Okay.
And then it kind of went to Shot. And he was called that his whole entire life.
All his life.
Yeah.
But you know, I remember so vividly them coming to Carmichael to sing, and then my family would be in singers with them, and at different churches and out on homecoming Sundays at the park. You know,
a lot of memories there.
A lot of memories there.
Yeah.
And lawn chairs all across the hillside.
It was like one of the biggest things that we would do all year.
And we'd sing off a flatbed truck trailer, you know. But those were good times and good days, you know. And your family, and I'm speaking of Elmer and Ruth Mullins and the Mullins family, but they actually did a lot of traveling back then.
They traveled, well, they cut their first record when Mom was pregnant with me.
Okay. So,
yeah, they traveled a lot. It was on and off. You know, they would travel a while, and then they wouldn't travel, and then they'd go back. You know, Dad would get the itch, and they'd go back on the road for a while.
They knew music, and they knew gospel music, and they knew traveling. They kind of were a semi-professional, if you will. You know,
yeah,
they really were.
They were, but they were all about church.
Yes.
I mean,
church first.
Church first. You know, if Dad didn't like the way I was playing something and that was right, but it didn't move out there,
right.
We had to change it.
Right. So, but you know, you guys, now your dad and his brothers, Virgil and Bob, there were so many of those kids, you know, Elmer, but Virgil and Bob, they were buddies with my grandpa and uncle, and then of course your mom with my grandma and mom, but Elmer, he loved CA's songwriting. He loved his songs.
He loved CA's songs, and CA cut a record, and I think we did 3, 4, maybe more than that songs of CA's.
Yeah. And that was a big thrill for our family and my uncle. That was because he looked up to them and stuff, and so that was good stuff right there, you know. But your mom and dad, they passed at a relatively young age.
Yeah, Mom had just turned 64.
I remember hearing when she got sick, and we hated to hear that so bad, and my grandmother and them, they prayed for her, but she was, how old now, 64, you
64,
said?
She just turned 64. Her birthday was on the 10th. She passed away on the 18th, so she just turned 64.
Okay. And she had that lung, yeah. And so she passed before your dad did, right?
Yeah. And then it was about 2.5 years, and then Dad passed away.
Okay. How long ago's that been?
I lose track of time. It's been around 14, 15 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, time just
flies.
It really does.
It does.
So now let's talk a little bit about the inception of family tradition. Okay. I can remember, and he remembered it for a long time, and now he acts like he doesn't remember it. But Mike, he came up to me. He and I worked together one summer at Micro Devices. What was then Micro Devices?
Right.
I was working as just a college student for the summer there, and he ran the name by me. I can remember him saying, "We're going to do this, and we're going to call it Family Tradition." Of course, there's Hank Jr. song. Yeah, I understood the reference. You know, he knew I would understand the reference.
Yeah.
But I told him it was perfect. Actually,
yeah,
it was perfect.
It was
for all of you all, because it was a family tradition that you were carrying on. But so tell us about those early days of that group and how that got together and how that got going.
You know, Mike had sang with Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
From a very early age.
Yes.
And he went with the Lefevres, moved to Atlanta, and we were all killed that he left us.
Yeah.
You know? And then he came home, and Mom and Dad were getting, older and tired
Right.
of the road, and so Mike and Karen and Donna kind of got together and said, well, let's do a little singing, and and they, of course,
That was the early 80s. Is when
yeah, but anytime they sang together, their harmony
Oh, yeah.
was incredible,
Outstanding. It was.
outstanding.
Yes.
And they carried a great anointing.
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
That's what comes first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just kind of happened, and we would get together at church and we would play and sing and dream,
Yeah.
and they just started singing. And Mom and Dad were still traveling some, so it was a few years later before I actually kind of went and started going with
Well,
them.
it was like you had the band and you had the singers, then so everybody was kin though.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
the beautiful thing about it. Everybody was kin.
Yeah.
And the really early ones, you guys made that album and stuff, but on Harvest Records, and I remember seeing the cassette of it. I actually play some of the songs still. I got a radio station, but Rob was the drummer and your bass, and those early days of that group, I remember right here where we are now.
That's
right.
right.
We've remodeled the church since then.
That's right.
But those were just good times and good memories.
Oh, we would travel,
And you all were so young. Everybody
we were
was
young,
at that time.
and we done some crazy things because we were so young, but we had a great time. And I remember there were certain songs that we would just sing and play forever.
Well, see, what a lot of folks don't understand about what our background is, that's what you do at a Pentecostal church.
That's right.
If the Spirit's moving, you keep on playing.
You
and
keep
keep on
going,
singing.
and it don't matter if you're hurting or tired. You
No,
just keep going.
That's right. You can't stop now. You
That's
got to
right.
keep going. So
That's right.
So, but then so later on, I can remember some of that kind of breaking up, and I booked you at Carmichael with David Creech.
Yeah,
Let's talk about Dave. He's a fabulous musician. He's from just up the road
Yeah,
in
Mount
Mount
Vernon.
Vernon. He's not there anymore, but Dave is, of course, I've got him on Facebook and stuff, and Dave is an outstanding musician and a great guy. But let's tell us how that all came to be.
well, David, I grew up with David like a big brother. He traveled with Mom and Dad for years.
Yes.
Years
yes.
and years.
Your dad found David somehow.
Well, our family knew David's family.
Okay.
Actually, my mother's family lived in Mount Vernon, and he would come over and play guitar with my brother, and he was just a little kid.
Okay.
So we've known him forever, and so he traveled with Mom and Dad for many years. So he was married, living in Nashville, and he kept hounding me to come and sing with him and his wife, and I don't know. I was the age. I moved away from home, and I got the opportunity. I thought, well, why not?
Yeah.
So I went.
Yeah. So you in your mom and dad's group, you mainly you played music, and you started singing, and you have a very nice voice, but I didn't know you as a singer that much, even then until you started singing.
I never wanted to sing. Mom always kind of made me a little bit. I wanted to be back here, But when I went with David and Lorna, I was going to be the bass player, and they had some issues in their group, and another couple was with them, and they, kind of disbanded. And I'll never forget the first weekend we went out, and I'd learned all their music, which was a little more difficult because David was.
Yeah, he was an accomplished musician.
Very much so, and I'd learned it. And I remember I was on my way to Nashville, and I was going out with him this weekend. He calls me. He said, well, me and you are singing this weekend. I said, no, we're not. He said, we are. And
he knew you could, though.
I became the bass player and singer with them.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes, because that's the group that we booked here. You were singing
That's
at
right.
that time,
That's right.
and you may have played a couple times here, Revival.
Yeah.
So, but I do remember those days. Yeah. So now you came back here for a time, and you sang with Christy and Denise from Faith Assembly, and you were just singing then. Beautiful harmonies. Of course, three singing families there, but no kin to each other, just singers from church that knew how to sing. Great blend. That was before the Crabb family, right?
That is right.
Okay.
That's correct.
So tell us about the time that you spent at Faith Assembly.
Dave and I were there for probably 10 years. I'm going back to revival days. They moved to Missouri, which is where she was from, Lorna, David's wife.
Okay.
And
I know they were around Branson area for a while.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they was like, "Why don't you move with us?" And I was like, well, it was either move with them or come back home here to London. And I thought, well, why not? I'm young, and I moved there, which is where I met my husband.
Okay. So you moved there with them then? You went to Missouri.
I went there with them.
You just picked up and went.
I did.
And Dave was out there. Okay.
David was in Bible college at Ozark Bible Institute.
Okay. All right.
And we met and started dating, and then a couple years later we got married and we moved back here. And when we moved back here, we got involved at Faith Assembly. Okay.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I remember meeting Dave, but I couldn't put a timeline on all that. So that's how that all came to be. Yeah. So, well, you were sort of the, and we'll talk about Dave here in a few minutes too, and what you guys are doing these days, But so from then you ended up as sort of the de facto band leader. I don't know, for the Crabb family, but did that evolve over time? Now I'm looking at a time period of the mid '90s now when that's when they came on the scene, and they
came
were
on the scene fast.
They hit hard and fast, and they were the new. I don't know, the music goes in waves and cycles, and the Hensons were different when they came out, and they were really, really good, and they were young, and so the Crabb family had that same vibe about them.
They sure did.
There was something different about this group. There's just something to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about how that started. Then you got involved. Was that an audition? Was it? Because that changed your life as far as point A to B to C where we're at now.
And
you took a detour, and you're still there. Yeah.
Well,
you never made it back home.
No. Dave and I were very, very involved at Faith Assembly for about 10 years. And that's when Mom started getting really sick.
Okay.
And at the point where she really got sick, I had to kind of resign everything that I was doing. And David and I moved in with them and took care of her 24/7 for about 9 months. And so after she passed away, during her sickness, Dad started getting sick. And so she passed away, and then we found out Dad had cancer. And so it was right back into nursing and helping, taking care of him. Mm-hmm. But he got better. He went into remission. And at the time, I was working for my brother. And Jeff Bolin, of all people, calls me one day. He says, "I've got the most amazing idea." And I said, "What?" And at that time, the Crabb family's parents had come off the road, and it was just the kids.
Oh, okay. So you weren't with them when you're, okay.
They were kind of retired from the road.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure when you came on board. Okay.
Yeah,
so.
they had kind of retired from the road. And then Tara, the youngest sister, and her husband had come off the road. Okay. And he ran sound.
So it was the twins, Jason and Kelly.
Right. And so Jeff Bolin calls me one day and he says, "You need to go with Crabb family." And I said, "Are you out of your mind? I'm not going back on the road." I said, "Why do you say that?" And he said, "Well, Tara and John has come off the road. They need a sound man, and they're moving Aaron to the front line." Which played bass. Yeah. And they were moving Aaron to the front line, and they needed a bass player.
So had Mike and Kelly got together
yet? Yeah, they were married.
So Jeff had some inside information handed down. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And I said, I was like, "No, Jeff, I don't think so, And next thing I know, a few hours later, I get a call from Kathy Crabb. and said, would y'all be interested? And I just bluntly told her I don't think so.
But that was a thrill for her to call.
Absolutely, and we talked for which we had known them, through Mike.
Right.
And we knew all the kids. And I go home that night and I tell Dave, I said, you ain't gonna believe this. And he said, what? And I tell him, and we're just kind of laughing about it, like we're not gonna go back on the road. And a few days later, David said, I can't hardly get this off my mind.
Yeah.
He said, I really think maybe we should pray about it, And we did. And it was just a week or so later, they were playing in Somerset, and Kathy said, why don't y'all come, and we'll come, and we'll just sit down and talk about it, We said, okay. So David and I go, it was like on a Wednesday or Thursday night. So David and I go, I've got on jeans and just a shirt, and we get there, and they're sound checking and everything, and Kathy says, here, run sound. So David starts running sound, tweaking. Next thing I know, I played bass for him that night.
That night. Wow.
And after
they had a lot of confidence in you then. I mean, but you'd heard the songs.
I knew everything they did.
You knew the songs. Yeah.
And during,
but you didn't even take your own bass.
No.
Okay.
I didn't. So during intermission, they all go out to the bus and talk about it, and she comes back and offers us a job. And we were like, we're really going to have to pray about this. Because David had a painting business, and we were, comfortable.
Yeah, you were comfortable and settled.
And settled.
Uh-huh.
And she said, go with us this weekend. And we said, okay. And we went with them that weekend, and I played, David ran sound. And that Sunday night, we were in Pigeon Forge, I'll never forget it, we were walking into an IHOP to eat. And Kathy was walking with David, and she said, well, I really want y'all to take this job. We want you to...
She can be a little persistent, can't she?
She can be very persistent. And David, I don't know, it just worked,
And it did. It absolutely.
And she said,
she was right about...
I need you all, not only for your talent, but the kids just need someone, to manage them and get them here on time, get them there. So David became the road manager as well.
Okay.
So it just worked.
Yeah, it did. And those were good years.
They were great years.
For them and you guys,
And it was such a time for me after Dad died like a year later. And I don't know what I would have done without their support.
Right.
During that time.
Right.
I was a little bit bitter and had some issues, but they were godly. They're godly people.
Yeah.
And they got
those
me
friendships
through.
Meant a lot.
They got me through some rough times.
Yeah.
Rough times.
That's awesome. So from there, it was Jason and his family then, because
they disbanded.
When they disbanded, Jason's like, you got to go with me.
Yeah. When they disbanded, everybody was devastated, and Jason come to me and Dave said, everything's gonna be all right. I want you and David to go with me, and we said okay.
Yeah. So now let's talk some about, you guys have done, not just played music, but you had a pet grooming business, right? Or pet boarding. Tell us about that a little bit.
I never actually started it, but I went to school for it.
Okay.
And finished, and I actually can do that.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I told David, I said, I don't want to travel forever, and something to fall back on.
It's not the glamorous thing that people make it out to be.
It's not at all what people think it is.
It's not, yeah. So, and I haven't done it, but I know I've been around enough to have seen and know it's not.
Total with Craft Family and Jason, we were there 14 years, and
you earn every penny.
That wasn't the plan. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When we went, we'll do it a few years. And
the years, just time marches on, and years start to pile up,
And relationships grow and grow and grow. And they're like family, and we just was never able to
break away. Yeah.
And so that's why I did that at one point, because that's what I always wanted to do.
Right.
And I thought, well, when we come off the road, that's what I'm going to do. Well, we never came off the road.
Well, you work for a bus company now, and I don't want to dwell on that, but that's something you're familiar with. You work for a bus company now in Nashville. Yeah. And you guys lease and things like that. Yeah. You deal with a lot of probably country and gospel artists in the Nashville area there for the bus thing.
We lease mostly to country and rock and roll bands, and Dave and I both worked there. So
Okay, well that's good. So now, what's it like being in a house band on the Huckabee Show? Do you have any interaction with him?
Oh yeah.
I would, and you're the bass player. He's the bass player.
That's right.
Sometimes you got to hand the bass to him.
There's times that he says, "I want to play with this," and I'm like, "It's all yours."
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Yeah. He's not as good as you.
Did
Did I say that about Huckabee? No. But he seems like such a level-headed, fun-loving guy. He's not too uptight to have a good time. He's a Christian. He's very religious, but he's not. I don't know, a stuffed collar, stuffed shirt.
Not at all.
He doesn't mind talking about liking Three Dog Night back in his day and wanting to play a song with Chuck Negron, which we talked about off camera, was, a huge thrill. That would have been a huge thrill for me. You got to do that. That's cool. But I was sold on Mike Huckabee when he gave his Theory of Evolution speech at that presidential debate. I think that's when the world saw, he said, "You can believe you came from a monkey all you want to, but I know I'm a created being from Almighty God." I think that's when the world really latched on to him and said, there's something different about this guy.
Yeah.
This guy's the real deal. So what's it like being around that guy?
He is, he's amazing. He's so nice, but he is a very kind man, and very caring man, and he's a lot of fun. Yeah. He's hilarious, actually.
Did you have to audition for Huckabee?
No, I got a call. It was the music director, Trey. He has a studio there, and I've done a lot of work with him over the years.
You played with some of those folks before.
And when it was first come up, Trey said, there might be this show coming up with Mike Huckabee. Would you be interested? I said, sure. Well, we had no idea that it would be at the level that it is, And he said, well, it's gonna go, And I said, let's do it.
Yeah, that's fun. That has to be. So it's in its second season now.
Second season.
Just started.
This weekend was the first season, or season 2, episode 1.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the folks you've met, and maybe your favorite person you've met.
Oh my goodness, we've had so many good, talented people on there, and Sam Moore. Was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah. Raining out in Georgia.
Right.
Well, that was Brooke Benton. Sam Moore, Soul Man.
Soul Man.
Yeah, Sam and Dave.
Yeah.
Sam
we
Moore.
did Soul Man.
Yeah. Soul Man.
Jody Macedo was on there. And man, that girl has turned her life over to God. It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that particular show, between rehearsals and the showtime, and we had some, we brought in a choir, some people from different churches, and she said, "Can we get together and just pray?"
Wow.
And we have this
That's
in
awesome.
the studio, this big garage, and it's carpeted, and we all met in there right before the show. Started praying. She just goes off singing some praise and worship songs. And we had church in that garage 10 minutes before the show started.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's cool.
It was amazing.
So you'll never forget that about Jody Messina, and that's something a lot of folks don't.
No, a lot of people don't know that she is on fire.
Well, I was talking to you about Chuck Negron earlier, but Mark Farner, and those bands that was who I listened to, growing up, and I'm like, man, that's so cool. That I was envious of getting played for those guys, and people like that. Jody Messina, that's huge.
Yeah, we have Ricky Skaggs and his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And these, a lot of people don't know that a lot of these people like this are such good Christian-based family people. Mm-hmm. And when you meet them, they're just kind of that way, you know. They're just down to earth. And
that's awesome. And some aren't.
Some are not.
Some
are not.
We won't talk about them, but I know that too. And I've worked in country radio for years, so I've seen both sides of that, and stuff. Yeah. But I remember the white pearl drum kit. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute. Noah gives me my cues. But the white pearl drum kit, I've still got my pearl kit, from 1979 or 80. and Young's Music Center window there. But
Yeah.
you had a beautiful kit. Do you still have it?
I don't.
You wish you did, though.
I wish I'd give anything if I did. I think I know where they are.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm glad I hung on to mine. You know, I'm really, because money won't buy them now, you know, as far
Right.
as sentimentality for me.
But I do have
I still even play mine, so.
I still have my bass guitar that my dad bought for me when I was 7 years old.
Yeah, that's.
Fender Precision, and I still play it.
Oh, do you? You see, I still
Absolutely.
play that kit that I'm talking about too, but money can't touch that.
No way.
Yeah, that's just that. Folks who don't play music, you know, but those are the ones that mean the most.
Yeah.
Those first,
That's the first
ones.
thing Dad
But I
bought
remember
for
the white kit. Yeah, I remember that.
I remember
thought
my
they were
dad,
really
when I
pretty.
got older, my dad sold that kit and it went on a car that he bought for
Oh,
me
really?
when I was 16.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what got you interested in bass? You started out drumming.
I actually started out bass playing.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. And
I
when
didn't
we
know
were
that.
singing, Dad hired in a
Drums were the only thing I was ever really interested in, and I kind of gravitated to you because we had that kinship, you
Yeah.
know. And then all at once you're playing the bass, and then all at once you're like a monster bass player, you know. I'm like,
well,
wow.
I played bass first, and we had a drum. Dad hired, actually it was David Creech,
Drum.
and he came in and started playing drums. I was like, oh, I want to play those.
Yeah, okay,
And so David taught me,
okay,
and then that was kind of, I played drums for Mom and Dad for that whole time
okay.
after I
That
learned.
was okay. Those were
Yeah.
the years I remember
Yeah.
there. But do you play guitar, piano?
I play around.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I play.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, bass guitar is kind of like the offensive line. It's probably the most underrated member of the band, honestly. Everybody wants to play drums or guitar when they start out. They don't, you know.
Yeah.
But you take the bass line out of song. The bass lines are usually very subtle, but if you take it away from the song, you have nothing.
You have nothing.
You have nothing. So to me, they're the MVP. You know, but of course I'm a drummer, so I gravitate toward that because that's who I need
Yeah.
to be. That's
Yeah.
whose right hand needs to be
Right.
with
That's
my
right.
right foot. You
That's
know,
right.
I think but that makes me appreciate bass players even more because of that. You know,
Yeah.
and you do great.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
I think everyone in Laurel County, and this was natural. I had you on my list to do, but everybody appreciates you, and we miss you here. But it's
Well,
great to
this is
see
home.
you on Saturday night on the Huckabee Show.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm blessed. God's really blessed me with that show, and He's
And-
blessed me my whole life. I mean, the doors that have opened from.
Well, you know, here's the thing, and I want to talk about David just for a second, but he's with John Hagee Ministries.
That's right.
David Sikes, your husband, and so that's a calling, and he flies every week to run
He
Saturday.
flies there every Saturday morning,
Okay.
and he's their house guy. Runs
Okay.
House Sound, and he flies home every Monday morning.
Okay. Well, here's what I want to close with is you lost your parents at a fairly early age,
Mm-hmm.
and you just touched on some things to do with faith. But when you're rooted and grounded like we have been in
Mm-hmm.
faith, and I might add Pentecost, holiness, that's what we know.
That's right.
You know, that's what we were raised in. I sometimes joke and say the full gospel. We believe in all of it.
All of it.
Yeah. But when that's instilled in you from that age, and I wouldn't take anything. There was a lot of Sundays I didn't want to be in church all day.
That's right.
All day we were in church all day.
Yeah.
You know, Elmer would have us there. Grandpa Vic would have. But now, I wouldn't take anything.
I wouldn't either.
For that. Now it never leaves you.
Yeah, that's right. I've just stayed in it, and it's just always been a passion in my heart, you know.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Wouldn't take nothing from a journey
That's
now.
exactly right. No better, truer song ever written.
That's
there.
right. Yeah. Well, Lorie, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you,
been an
Ken.
honor. Thanks.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.